It all started with this email. It was advertising a recycle bin swap in Chicago, and the story piqued my interest, but I decided I wanted to do a more focused angle on it relating to Colombia. I remembered when I first came to the college for orientation where the student leaders were super adamant about showing new students how to compost correctly. They would stand by the bins and make sure everyone partook. But after that day, I didn't even see anyone throw food scraps in the compost bins on campus. So I wanted to find out where the compost waste goes, who took care of it, and how the college did it. For months, I couldn't find one answer. I began reporting on the story in March 2019. I started by reaching out to the college's spokesperson to get some basic information and set up an interview with who was in charge of the program. I didn't hear back from the college for nearly a month. In the meantime, I started looking for more sources. I found out Colombia used to be part of the Greener South Loop Alliance 10 years ago, but the relationship fell apart after the person at the college responsible for overseeing the project left. I discovered the school was also part of the Illinois Scrap Coalition a few years back, and a representative I spoke to said the college was applauded for its recycling and composting practices in 2011, but couldn't speak to what the college was currently doing. Finally, I heard back from the college. By this time, I'd written 3 drafts of my story. Professors I spoke to had no idea what the college was doing regarding composting, not the company it distributes to or how much money it costs to compost in the city. In an interview with President and CEO Kwan Woo Kim, a Chronicle reporter asked him what he knew of Colombia's composting initiatives. He didn't know either.
So we have a reporter who's been trying to work for months now on a story about Colombia's sustainability efforts, specifically composting.
Okay.
So she was wondering if you'd like to speak to the composting and sustainability efforts here.
I don't know anything about them.
Really?
I don't know anything about composting on this campus.
Do you think you should?
Yes, but who is in charge of that?
Well, that's sort of the main point is I believe a woman who was in charge of it is no longer here.
Oh, okay.
And so I guess those efforts were not passed off to someone next.
And I just don't know. I'll find out.
Would you like to focus on that in the future then?
Sustainability is a big issue for me. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we have a really deep culture on this campus yet of thinking about this. Mm-hmm. So that is something that I would like to have much greater focus on. I think it's important. I think we probably do a lot of the right things, but again, it's maybe not coordinated. So I'm glad you raised that because I'll find out now that you asked me.
Yeah. Nobody knew who was in charge, how, or whether composting was even happening at the college. 3 months later, I still didn't have all the answers. It can be infuriating to have to keep going back to the drawing board on a story you feel so attached to. The waiting game is the worst part, because I knew I was just looking for that one person who had the answers to all my questions.
Have any examples since composting was required to do? Do you have any examples of what specifically you had to do, or what they told you you had to do for that?
To be honest, I don't think we actually composted it. I know that sounds really bad, but I don't think we actually composted it. I think we just threw it away. When I asked a question about it, if I'm remembering correctly, the site that we're on is we're unable to have a compost site, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah, so I spoke to a student here, Brianna Kennedy, and she's a senior now. And apparently, her sophomore year, she did an internship. It was a marketing internship with, the UC, the cafeteria. And she basically said that it was more marketing focused, and they were required to do a bunch of like sustainability efforts, and they were required to collect all of these materials like recycling, compost, food waste, all of that. And kind of like throughout the day she had like a table set up, I guess, and instead of like people putting all their waste in trash cans, they would just keep it on the tray and stack it up, and she would collect it all and basically like put it in a pile to show people that like this is all the food you're wasting, and like this is bad, and like blah blah blah, and trying to market that to people and show them like how much stuff is actually being wasted. But then she said at the end of the day, rather than actually doing something with the waste, they would just toss it in bins and throw it in the garbage. And so basically this whole initiative to show people how much is being wasted and that people need to do more and do better to make sure all of that stuff isn't going to waste, and all those things, to actually do more with sustainability was basically not being upheld, and they just did what everybody else does at the end of the day and throw it away. I'm hopefully being put in contact with somebody from Chartwell's, and hopefully somebody that's currently interning, to give me more information on like what's going on now, because she's a senior now, so that was 2 years ago, so they could have changed it up a little bit, but I kind of just want to know, I want to talk to somebody from Chartwell's and know like why they're making a point to collect all the waste and show that to students or anybody eating in the cafeteria, but then do nothing with it. Even with all of my sources, the story couldn't be complete without some conclusion, so I kept reporting.
Personally, if you guys know anything about composting, or if you care generally about composting.
I did notice on the campus, like when I did a student event, they would make a separate video. I did notice that. I don't know about anything else going on in the campus.
Finally, I was able to set up an interview with Sarah McGing, the Director of Operations and Administration, so I could ask her all my composting questions.
It is outside. We don't want to have something like that inside.
Okay.
And they are locked, so that way you can't have, someone coming through the alley and throwing their trash inside of it. But that way it is also easily available for the composting company to pick it up, and they do pick it up once a week.
Okay.
I do know we had a lease agreement where we had beds within the university center, but the way the university center was managed, it was completely separate from us. So their composting, their trash and recycling is managed within that building.
Okay.
Where we have a completely separate program.
Just wanted to
We would never throw that away,
Right.
definitely.
After 7 months of reporting, the article was finally ready to be published.